Good evening. And in the morning, we were looking at some of the aspects of what causes the landslide. So we were trying to look at some physical connection like the sliding board, and then we were trying to see how we can probably relate all of this. Now, moving on, I have a few things which I thought I'll just share with you. Point number one, today we'll see some of the other natural calamities which are associated uh, with this geology, the geological aspect, or because of the surface of the earth. Now, tsunami is not something very new because India suffered a major tsunami, and till then the awareness that there was something called tsunami was not at all there. So also when earthquakes struck India, the Bhuj area, then only people started to get aware that there is something called earthquake which can also affect people. So when we started this 2000, we started what we call as a very big what we call as a very big scale of disasters, which kind of shaped the public policy greatly. So whenever there is a disaster, the government will try to patch up the what we call as the things where we lack in, so that we can respond better when a disaster strikes again. So next time, probably when a pandemic comes, we are going to be more prepared. Okay, but now let's restrict our discussion to tsunami. Let's have a small question. What is a wave? What is a wave? Aishi, you joined. Okay, Aishi, what's a wave? Aishi? Okay, Ishan, are you around? Yes, Ishan. What is a wave?
The transformation of energies, and like in earthquake,
Okay.
we are facing distributed kind of energy, so it just shows like waves in water.
Okay. So basically, we are seeing that it is a transfer of energy. So now, whenever you are what you call as facing whenever there is a movement of energy, it is usually in the form of waves. So when you go through the rest of my videos, you'll be having things like what's a standing wave and so on and so forth. And it is essentially these waves which get what you call as this reflected, refracted, so on and so forth. Okay. Now, one of the very important things that you will probably remember is when the surface of the water is disturbed by a stone, you will usually see some ripples. The ripples move from the center and move on towards the end, and as it comes towards the edge, typically you will find that the ring size is bigger, but the amplitude of displacement is reduced. Now, when you look at the sea, you see waves. If you remember your geography, these waves are caused because of the passage of wind over the ocean. So it kind of this is the surface of the water. The wind kind of pushes the water slightly inside, and it starts to generate some energy. It imparts some energy to the water body. Now this water body has this wave energy move from the periphery to the center. Now let us say that the water was displaced by 1 centimeter. So here what happens is many thousand liters of water has been moved by 1 centimeter. The problem is that there is no problem at the center in the middle of the ocean, because there is lot of space for the water to kind of move up and down. But when it comes to the shore, the quantum of water is such that it has to go upward, it has to break the surface. Now this is what causes waves typically in a sea. So when there is a cyclone or low pressure and other things, you will find that the water body is getting pushed sufficiently to cause rough waves in the shore. So when it comes to the shore, the wave height keeps increasing because there is not much space for the wave to move or displace and lose its energy. Now when we look at a tsunami, what happens is, when it's caused due to an earthquake, the underground plates could rupture and cause a motion. Again, this motion could be very small, it could be very small, but as the wave travels, the wave keeps increasing in height. So you can have very small tsunamis which will be a few meters high, say 2 meters or 3 meters, or you will find that they can be far greater. Now what are the signs of a tsunami? What are the indications of tsunami? What are the indications of tsunami? Any idea? So the first time when I heard about the tsunami was in my English book. English books are full of stories. So there was the story of this Japanese village, which was a very prosperous village. The village was on a mountain. So one day, all of a sudden, they saw a wonder. The sea was going backward. This was not something anybody had seen, so they all rushed to see what had happened. Now what was actually happening? The water was receding because one of the waves had lifted up sufficiently, making all the water go towards the ocean. But what happens? Once the wave goes up, it is again going to come down. So when the when a old man heard it, he realized the significance of what had happened, and he went and set fire to all the bales of rice which they had harvested. Seeing this, seeing that their rice was getting affected, all the villagers came running up. They were coming to maybe beat up the old man who had gone mad. But when they came, they saw that the sea which had gone back had returned. And had they been in the low grounds, the entire village would have lost the people. I mean, the lives of a lot of people would have lost their lives. Now this is what happened when the tsunami happened in India also. Some of the people whom we knew, their family had gone to the beach and they were trying to return back, but unfortunately they were caught in the tsunami. So when the person was recounting what happened, it was heartbreaking. But the good part was, after the tsunami, he took so many children who were many times orphaned or lost, who were just looking lost, and he took care of them, irrespective of the fact that he had lost his own children. So this was one story that really challenged me also. But the point I wish to make is, if you see the sea receding, remember that it is the indication of a tsunami. The person who managed to save himself, he hung on to a coconut tree. And yeah, so that was how he saved himself. Now there is another thing which protected us. So whenever protected what you call as the damage due to the tsunami, whenever you are having some vegetation, there is a resort in what you call as Mahabalipuram, and it was the Sunday when this tsunami came. So in that campsite, they had like the breakfast around 8 o'clock. So they had called everybody back, and when the tsunami came, it came with a lot of fury, and this particular area had this bamboo brush, a small, I don't know, they call it mungal. Yeah, it's not exactly bamboo, but it is it's a tree which looks like bamboo. I am forgetting the name of the brush. So the trees blocked the force of the wave. They bore the brunt of the wave. So when the sea water came, it lost all its energy. Okay. Now the important word I want to speak to you is energy. So when the energy was dissipated, the tsunami did not do as much damage as it could have otherwise done. Okay. So the two things which accompany tsunami is probably like animals getting distraught, and of course the other thing is the sea receding. These are indications which you observe physically. Now in tsunami advanced warning system, what happens, they have hydrophones in the sea and in many other places which can pick up disturbances. It might be a seismogram or anything else. I mean, like, now we have so many technologies which are able to correlate occurrence of a tsunami to certain geological activities. So it can be a hydrophone, it can be because these are all strategically placed in buoys in and around the Pacific Ocean. Okay, because and also in the Indian Ocean it's there, and these are all what we call as part of a tsunami warning system. And when these systems pick up something abnormal, they send signal to the ground station, and they also communicate it to the people. And again, it may give you around 3 minutes to 5 minutes warning at the most. It's a 3 minute to 5 minute warning at the most. Now as I told you earlier, very few countries actually have the emergency alerts. So if suppose you see your phone, you will have something called emergency alerts, but typically we don't get any of these emergency alerts. One, maybe we don't have that many natural disasters, and two, probably we are not even aware that such a system is existing. However, these are very widely used in countries which are very prone to such natural disasters. So as a summary, tsunamis typically when are caused when there is a disruption and an energy wave is generated, and this can cause the sea water especially to recede. The sea water will go back, and then when it comes back into the land, it's going to come with a lot of force. But of course, that other way around also can happen, where the water just comes into the land. Okay, so typically what we do is we have what we call as energy dissipators. We have energy dissipators. So strategically placed walls will prevent the wave. I mean, like, will reduce the energy associated with that wave. Again, it's a mere reduction. So if suppose the energy content is much more than what the energy dissipator was designed for, you still will find that it's failing. Okay, so moving on, one of the other things which cause tsunami is when landslides occur into water bodies. When landslides occur into water bodies, tsunamis take place. So it's like, if you just take a small stone and put it, some water splashes. When you take a larger rock, more water splashes. But just imagine, like the landslide which we saw in yesterday's videos, a huge mass of land suddenly spills into the reservoir or of a dam, or of a lake or any water body. This pushes the water with a great force. All the energy which was imposed on the water body has to be dissipated. So this causes the waves to take place even in standing water bodies. So now one of some of the things which you would have observed is, where are the places where tsunamis are likely to take place. The second thing is how we can prevent tsunamis from damaging, that is by constructing energy dissipators. Basically that is the only thing which we can do. Some of the other things which people try to do is like, you know, ensure that the shelter for people who from I mean like when tsunami occurs is at a much higher level. So you can see the YouTube videos which highlight all of these systems which are present. So the other thing is where we can have some emergency alerts. This emergency alerts will be based on specifically placed sensors in and around the globe, and again these sensors will you know, like they are self-learning mechanisms which understand when a tsunami is likely to happen and which conditions a tsunami is not likely to happen. So there's a lot of probability also involved, so much of which I hope that you guys are kind of, you know, the concept of probability and other things I hope you are familiar with. Okay, now apart from this I don't really think there's much to talk about tsunamis. So in the past few lectures we've been seeing what we call as the natural disasters which are having the cause as I mean which can be traced to geological aspects. Geology is nothing but, you know, what is due to the earth. So we saw that everything is resting on soil. So if we understand how the soil behaves, a lot of things can be predicted. So we saw some of the properties of soil. We saw that like yesterday and day before we've been seeing about the angle of internal friction. Today we saw that, you know, amount of water can change, and water is required to some extent. When water is added, it increases strength, but beyond it, it makes the system fail. So again there is the problem of buoyancy which is increased, which is induced in the soil mass, plus we also have the additional weight which is given because there is moisture in the soil. Okay, and when we have a landslide, when its land slips, tsunami could take place. When there is an earthquake, especially underwater, a tsunami could take place. Sometimes volcanic reactions also, actions also are the cause of tsunamis. Okay, and if you look at landslides, when a volcano erupts, the lava is nothing but a moving mass of soils. Okay, it's superheated liquid molten this one material which is coming out, and this mass is also like a landslide, just that here there is a slip, soil just goes, but here probably the soil itself is taking a liquid state, and you know, it's not going to be a very nice thing to think about. So if do you have any questions in what we have done till now? Any questions from any of you, please? Right. So I just hope that, you know, we have tried to keep it as what you call as practical as possible. So we have almost covered 2 units. We have in fact covered 2 units, and if suppose you are really looking at, you know, one of the things which I would have wanted to speak to you is the what you call as the way this earthquake is measured. So we got quite a lot of scales, modified Mercalli scale, the Richter scale which we are very commonly which we know. So each of these are scales to evaluate the force of the earthquake. So it provides a way by which we can compare one earthquake's effect with another. Okay, so you can go through this because one is a logarithmic scale, other is based on perception of the people. So this one I think, you know, you can just do a little bit of reading, and it is not really what I call as very big. So I'll probably leave this to you as a exercise which you can undertake, right? So any other I think you told us no question. If you don't have any other questions, I think we'll say bye for now.